Hello and welcome back to my channel. Can you see the difference between these two snake plants? This one is strong, healthy and growing beautifully. And this one? It used to be just as perfect until I made a few mistakes. So stay with me as I show you how to care for snake plants the right way and reveal 5 common mistakes you need to avoid. I've had this plant for years and it thrived in a glass container without drainage. But 6 months ago I made a change. I moved it to a low light spot and everything started going wrong. The leaves stretched, growth completely stopped, and worst of all, many leaves turned yellow and dried out, so I had to remove them. But light wasn't the only problem. Several mistakes combined to cause the decline. So let's start with the biggest ones and how to fix them. One of the biggest mistakes with snake plants is overwatering. These plants store water in their thick leaves, which means they don't need frequent watering, especially in winter. If the soil stays wet for too long, the roots suffocate and rot. Snake plants don't have a massive root system, so excess moisture can quickly lead to root rot. When it comes to watering, treat them like succulents because they prefer to dry out between waterings. In my case, when I moved my plant to a darker spot, the soil dried much slower. This meant it stayed wet for too long, creating the perfect conditions for root rot. Signs of overwatering include yellowing leaves that feel soft or mushy, wilting or drooping despite moist soil, a smell coming from the soil, and older leaves starting to fall off. To avoid overwatering, always water only when the soil is almost completely dry. Stick your finger a few inches into the soil, and if it's still damp, wait a few more days. When watering, soak the soil thoroughly, but let it drain out completely before placing the plant back in its pot. If your plant sits in a tray, always remove any excess water. If your snake plant already has root rot, repot it into fresh, well-draining soil. Trim off any rotten or mushy roots before replanting to stop the spread. Good drainage and the right soil are essential for keeping a snake plant healthy, as you can see in my case. Even if you water correctly, using the wrong soil or pot without drainage holes can still cause serious issues, as I mentioned before. That's why I always recommend planting snake plants only in pots with drainage holes. Without proper drainage, the plant will start rooting sooner or later. Another important thing to consider is pot size. Snake plants don't need large pots like in my case. They actually thrive better in smaller ones. I've noticed that when they have little space, they tend to produce more side offshoots. When repotting, always choose a pot that's just one size bigger. Repotting should be only done when necessary or about once every 2 to 3 years. The soil mix is just as important. Always plant snake plants in well-draining soil. A mix of potting soil with perlite or sand helps water pass through easily. You can also use a succulent potting mix. Avoid heavy soils that retain too much moisture, as they can lead to root rot. Choosing the right soil and pot makes all the difference in keeping a snake plant thriving. I will repot this struggling plant into a much smaller pot with drainage holes to give it a chance to recover. If your snake plant's leaves are turning yellow, it's a sign that something is wrong. While older leaves naturally yellow and die over time, multiple yellowing leaves at once usually indicate a problem. The most common cause of yellow leaves is overwatering again. When the soil stays too wet, the roots suffocate and the plant can't take in nutrients properly. Let the soil dry out completely before watering again and make sure your pot has proper drainage. Sudden temperature drops or cold drafts can also trigger yellowing. Nutrient deficiency can also cause discoloration. If the leaves look pale rather than deep green, your plant may need a diluted liquid fertilizer once a month during the growing season. However, too much fertilizer can have the opposite effect, causing leaves to turn yellow due to excess nutrients. If the yellow leaves feel soft and mushy, they won't recover, so trim them off to prevent further stress. If they are firm but pale, adjusting watering, light and nutrients will help the plant bounce back. Light plays a big role in keeping a snake plant healthy, and while these plants are known for tolerating different light conditions, too much or too little can cause problems. If you place it in low light for too long, as I did, it will start stretching toward the light, becoming weak and leggy. The leaves may also lose their deep green color and become pale. In extreme cases, the plant may stop growing altogether. You should note that snake plants can survive in low light, but they won't thrive. On the other hand, too much direct sunlight can be just as damaging. If exposed to harsh sun, especially during the summer, the leaves can develop brown crispy spots from sunburn. The damage is permanent and won't heal. The best light for snake plants is bright indirect light. They will grow much better with at least few hours of moderate brightness. If you only have low light conditions, using a grow light can help keep it healthy. If your plant is showing signs of light stress, make adjustments gradually. Moving a plant from low light directly into bright sun can shock it, so transition slowly to prevent further stress. Finding the right balance will keep your snake plant strong and growing well. Snake plants are tropical plants that prefer warm, stable conditions, so exposure to cold temperatures and drafts can cause serious stress. While they can tolerate a range of indoor conditions, they start struggling when temperatures drop below 50 degrees Fahrenheit. If a snake plant is exposed to cold drafts from windows, doors, or air conditioning vents, the leaves may become soft, wrinkled, or discolored. In some cases, sudden temperature drops can lead to yellowing or mushy leaves, which are signs of cold damage. To prevent cold stress, keep your snake plant in warm, stable environment. Now let's take a look at what actually works best for snake plants. My best growing snake plant is placed a few feet away from a west-facing window where it gets bright indirect light with gentle afternoon sun for most of the day. I only water it when the soil is almost dry, making sure not to overwater. During the growing season, I fertilize once a month with a diluted liquid fertilizer, which helps it stay strong and grow faster. It's planted in well-draining soil with added perlite and sits in a pot with drainage holes, allowing excess moisture to escape. I've found that these conditions are perfect for healthy growth, and this plant has been growing faster than my other snake plants. This just proves that the right balance of light, water and soil really makes a difference. I hope you found these tips helpful and discovered how to avoid common mistakes with snake plants. If you have any questions or suggestions, feel free to share them in the comments below. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe for more plant care tips. Thanks for watching and happy growing!